Hear Me See Me podcast is sponsored by Zenoti, the #1 cloud software for salons and spas. Because when people feel good, they find their greatness. I am Stuart Roberts, and I'm really excited to introduce my new podcast, Hear Me See Me. It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. I'd had this idea after being inspired by a guy in America I'd seen cutting hair on the streets and seeing the difference it made to the guys who were there. This is more than a job. This is a calling. Good evening. This is Stuart from Hear Me See Me podcast, and this evening, I don't suppose people know what time of day it is, but I'm with celebrity hairdresser Michael Douglas. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm in like an exotic job in Spain, on the south coast of Spain, working on a tour. That's great. It's fantastic. The work only starts at like 4 in the afternoon. I get to spend all the time kind of messing around on the beach till about 3. It's my favourite job I've had in 3 years.
Is it?
Yeah, it's bloody brilliant.
My daughter works for TV in behind the scenes, and she's just had a peach. She's been in Malta, and she had to
nice.
Paid for 4 weeks, but 2 weeks she spent isolating in the hotel. So she had 4-star hotel for 2 weeks, and then the 2 weeks she did actually work was nights. So she had all day in the sun. So she really liked that one.
Yeah, it's very, very similar. Yeah, it's great. It's great. We're all very happy, and it's quite quiet out here, I guess, because of the COVID, and we're out of season. We've kind of got the hotel to ourselves. You know, it's great.
Can we go way back? Because I like to get to the bones about people and find out.
Of course.
And I think it's always best to go back to the beginning. What sort of where was you brought up? What was your childhood like?
I was about 2 years old. I moved to Leyland in Lancashire, and I was raised there. So when people ask me where I'm from, I always say, well, Leyland in Lancashire. But I was actually born in Birmingham, or just outside of Birmingham in Bromsgrove. But yes, I'm a Lancashire lad, really, is how I see myself, really. My parents are Scottish, and both of them speak Scottish. But yes, I'm a northerner. Yeah.
My dad was Scottish, so he was. I'm half and half. Yeah,
me too. So, I'm very happy about it. I'm very connected to Scotland. Like I go back there quite a lot, and it definitely feels like home to me, Scotland. I'd be pretty devastated if there's another referendum on Scotland and they were to leave the connection to Britain. It'd be really sad. I realise there's lots of people.
I agree.
Like that, but it would be a heartbreaker for me.
Yeah, it's a magical place, and a lot of my early roots are from there. And like one of my uncles, he works on a farm breeding cattle, and you just drive over the mountain and just into this sort of glen, and you felt this spiritual connection.
Yes.
Like hairs on your neck just as you went in. Right? And unfortunately, over there, the laird who owned the laird died, and the young laird took over, and he decided he didn't want cattle anymore. So my uncle lived there for years, and it was the home came with the job, and when the job finished, the home went. So
right,
for years, you know, it's this sort of archaic thing of the lairds, you know. But magical place. It's really lovely. So, what made you first get into hairdressing then, Michael?
Well, I think I was probably like a lot of hairdressers. I didn't perform particularly well at school. I liked school, you know, I had a good time there and had lots of friends there, and it was a real great fun. But I wasn't leaving with any qualifications, and I had no real desire to stay in further education. So, you know, my mum said, look, you know, you've got to get a job. So I thought about joining the army, because I thought, well, they'll take anybody. I'll be all right there. Then it was the Navy. And then I had a friend called Matthew, and his older brother was a hairdresser, trainee hairdresser, and he was just having the time of his life. And I thought, who do I most want to be like? And I thought, I want to be like Phil, this guy. We used to call him Mr. Saturday Night, but he was, you know, a hairdresser. He you used to call them foreigners. You'd finish at the salon and you'd go and do a few foreigners, which were just people outside of the salon. They weren't actual foreigners. Is this a term you're familiar with?
No, not from where I.
Oh, is it not?
No.
Yeah. So my mum would always go, "Have you done a few foreigners tonight?" Which was basically cash in the back pocket, doing some outside of work, So Phil just was like the David Beckham of Leyland. He was so well connected, and he just seemed to have a really good life. And I thought, great, I'll be like Phil. So my mum said, well, they're looking for an apprentice down at this hair salon called Every Generation in Leyland. So I went down there, did an interview. I did a couple of Saturdays, and then they said, great, we'll take you on. So I think it was the 22nd of April, 1989. I went after school, every day virtually, and then worked the Saturday as well. So I was earning a few quid in the run up to my exams. I didn't revise or anything like that. I just plowed through the exams. I have no idea what I got. I never went and picked up my results. But I joined the YTS scheme on £28.50 a week and worked at Every Generation for 2 years. Day release at college, all that stuff. It's great. Yeah. And, it was me and like 15 women basically in this hair salon. It was just like, wow, It was so much fun. It was this funny thing because obviously I live in London now, it's like lots of gay men go into hairdressing, I guess, to find this kind of connection to feminism perhaps and things like that. But up north, lots of blokes go into hairdressing to kind of find women. It's this real weird twist from being a northern hairdresser to being a London hairdresser. Yeah. The motivations for doing it are two completely different things, which was fascinating kind of when I saw all that. But yeah, I loved it really, but I didn't see it as a kind of art form or, something really creative. I just saw it as something to do really. And there was lots of perms, I was neutralizing 17 perms a day or whatever it was, it was just like, what am I doing? So I often ummed and ahed about wanting to be a motorbike mechanic. I was obsessed with motorbikes. I loved engines, so I tried to leave 2 or 3 times and go to the motorbike shop and see if they'd take me on as a motorbike mechanic. But every time I'd go, they go, let's have a look at your hands. And I'd show them my hands, and they go, no chance, get out, and I'll be back to the salon. So yeah, it was, it was good fun, but I just kind of saw it as a job or something to do. And I often thought once I've got a trade or a skill, and then I might join the army or the navy,
Yeah. So where did it take you after that? After those 2 years?
I realised that I wanted to. I'd been at Every Generation for a couple of years, and I wanted to move to Preston, which was like the big town near Leyland. Leyland was a little village. Yeah, Preston was a bit bigger, and it had these kind of what felt like big, glamorous New York style salons. There was one there called Rafters. So I went to get an interview there, and I got offered a job there at Rafters Hair Studio, where I met a guy called Gary Spencer there. Gary Spencer runs something called the Great British Barber Bash now.
I've met him.
So you might, yeah, he's quite a big. I mean, when I say he's a big character, I don't mean he's fat. I just mean he's like a very larger than life, funny character. But he was probably, I would have been about 18. He was probably about 23 or 24, and I was just mesmerised by him, really. And he kind of taught me to cut hair differently and to see my job as something other than a job, to take it seriously. And he also set up this little academy that was called System Hair Academy, where we would teach on a Sunday morning. We would invite local hair salons to come to us, and we would put on a little hair show. And then in the afternoon, we'd do some models and stuff like that. And we'd teach these new techniques. I mean, I was bluffing my way through this, but I was very good at amateur dramatics at school. I've been in the school play quite a lot and all the rest of it. I was quite good at standing up and talking in front of people. So I really enjoyed that. So me and Gary, he took me under his wing. I worked well in the salon and built a good column. And then on Sundays, I was doing these talks and presentations. And the owner of Rafters Hair Studio, which wasn't Gary, a guy called Adrian Barner, owned the distributorship for Paul Mitchell for the northwest of England. Right. And he came to sit in on one of the seminars, and then he said, look, how about you work in the salon 3 days a week, and you come out with Paul Mitchell 3 days a week and do education for my customers, for my salons, teaching people how to use the products and all that stuff. And I looked quite cool. I had a full head of dreadlocks. I used to wear like leather pants and a leather waistcoat. I looked like Mick Hucknall, basically, without being ginger. And he gave me a company car and all that stuff. Oh, wow. Yeah. I was away with it, and I really enjoyed, I guess, the presentation side of it, a bit of teaching, and made me feel good about myself. And I realized that being a hairdresser wasn't just working in a salon anymore. It's kind of a world outside of it. And that really, really appealed to me, that.
Mm. So then where did it go from there?
I actually got very sick around that time. My lungs started to collapse weirdly. I was on a night out with Gary Spencer and we drank these Long Island iced teas. We had a couple of them. And then for whatever reason, I just collapsed. Oh. And then, we had to take me to hospital and everything. And it turns out one of my lungs had collapsed. And it would just knocked me for 6, really. I guess I was about 19. And then I was out of action for about 6 weeks. And then I lost a lot of weight. I was very skinny and very sickly, really, around that time. And then my lungs started collapsing intermittently. The left one would collapse, they'd fix it. The right one would collapse, they'd fix that. And I ended up just literally being in hospital for about 18 months, to the point where actually they did some operations to try and fix the problem. But I ended up dying on the operating table. And then I was in intensive care for a while. And, they gave me an epidural. I'm sure you know what an epidural is, but it's a needle that goes into your spine. But they put it in too far. It went into my spinal cord. And they turned on the morphine. All the morphine went into my spinal cord, straight up into my brain, and then shut all my organs down, stopped my heart. Just killed me, basically, It was a bloody nightmare. But anyway, they drain all the morphine off your brain, and I was paralyzed for a while. And then eventually, I came... But, they literally didn't know whether that was going to happen or not. But over a 6-week period, I returned. But I was jobless, really. I came out of there, and Adrian Barnett had sold rafters to somebody. There was a chap called David Thomas, which you might know, David Thomas, hairdresser. He's up in Preston. Wow. And he came to visit me in hospital quite a lot. And he said, look, when you get out of hospital, I want you to come and work for me. He said, you can do all the education for my staff. And he said, I'll look after you. And, I think he basically said, look, whatever debts you incur, he said, I'll take them on and we'll work out a system about how you can pay them back. Yeah. He was just such a lovely, lovely person, David. And he saved me, really, Yeah. So eventually I came out of hospital and went to work for him in Preston, and I loved it. And then an advert came up in the Hairdresser's Journal to apply for a job as a teacher for Weller at the Weller studio in London. Right. I would have been about 20, 21 at this point.
That's young, isn't it?
And yeah.
For that sort of role, isn't it?
Yes. I think I was the youngest person they'd ever employed to do that role at that time. I think they'd had someone 23 or 24 to do it. But I thought, well, look, I was a really good teacher. I could stand up and talk in front of people. I had some good skills with hair. I knew how to dress long hair, I knew how to colour hair really well, and all that kind of stuff. I thought, I'll give it a shot. So my girlfriend wrote, I was like a lot of hairdressers. I'm not a writer, I'm not a natural writer. So she wrote me this letter of application to Weller. And weirdly, I found it the other day. I found a copy of it the other day, and so well written. I still couldn't write it that well myself, And they contacted me back and they said, we'd love to give you an opportunity to come for an interview at Basingstoke at Weller headquarters. I went down there, put on my best suit, and I did a brilliant presentation. Like knockout it was. You could do a 5-minute presentation on anything, and I did it on meditation, this meditation technique that I learned in hospital. It's called the 3 S's: silence, stillness, and solitude. And I've read about it in this book. It's a terrible kind of self-help book called Talk and Grow Rich with Ron Holland or something like that. I was thinking, I'm going to talk and grow rich. That'll work. Anyway, I went down there, but I did this presentation on how you can unlock the subconscious mind, to get it to get you things. And the way you did that was through this meditation technique. Anyway, it was a really good presentation. And they were like, wow, come back for another interview. So I came back for another interview, did some hair and all the rest of it. And in the end, they said, we'd love to offer you the job to come and work at the Weller studio in London. I was like, I'm in, count me in. Yeah. 12.5 grand a year, I think was the salary, with £2,000 London waiting, it was called. So you got an extra 2 grand a year because you worked in London. And that was it. I packed my bags and left. So this would have been September 1994. Wow. And bearing in mind, I was dead in April of that year. Yeah. So I'd had this miraculous kind of turnaround, really. But I was heavily in debt. I was in real, probably 22 grams worth of debt, I would say. And I was a young lad earning peanuts. But being off ill for 18 months and all the rest of it absolutely cleaned me out. I think I had 8 county court judgments against my name. It's just like, Jesus, am I ever going to get back on my feet? Yeah. But Weller kind of saved me, really,
Yeah.
And my job at Weller was to teach. And every day, morning, afternoon, and at least 3 evenings a week, you stood on a stage and you presented to, I don't know, 10 people or 100 people or 200 people. So I really, really learned, one, how to do hair really well there, because you only ever did really one head of hair in the morning. You did it while you were teaching, right? So you got really into the nitty-gritty of hair and how it worked and how it functioned. You were also surrounded by this huge R&D department that told you everything and anything you needed to know about how hair works, where it comes from, what it does, and then how all these products work in the hair itself. Yeah. So it was just a fantastic education, really, but it taught me everything. And I remember on day one of working at the Weller studio, I was on stage with Nicky Clark on one side and Joshua Galvin on the other. Wow. And I was like, wow, this is great, And I would just listen to what they were teaching, and then I would teach that the following day on my own courses, So you were just picking up nuggets of stuff everywhere. And you were Patrick Cameron, Keith Harris, who you remember was always there. Trevor Sorby was always there. Yeah. Daniel Galvin, Joshua Galvin, Nicky Clark, and then all these other kind of other people that would come in all the time, So you were just seeing the best of the best do stuff, and then learning from them. So that takes me up to about 1994. So from 89 to 94, there you got a little synopsis of how it went for me, and it was great. But I probably haven't worked in a salon since 1993, really. Yeah. And it's quite hard to maintain a decent hairdressing career outside a salon for all that length of time. I think that's my biggest achievement, really, is being able to maintain a career not behind a chair. And not that there's anything wrong with being behind a chair, because I do it like once a week.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
My son's ringing.
That's okay.
He wasn't picking up. He's going to have to
wait. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still amazed, because I always think, at some point I'm going to get sucked back into the salon, because I can't sustain my life financially doing these kind of session jobs. But weirdly, they just keep coming in. You think, okay, there's another year of traveling with a suitcase and mooching about and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. It's great. It's been great.
Because that's a long time, isn't it? As you say, that's quite a long time not to be. That's the biggest part. That's the most part of your career, isn't it?
Yeah, I've spent far more time out of it than I have in it. I mean, it's it's been a long time since I've had a full column. That's for sure. But it's funny, because I work out of Andrew Jost sometimes in Charlotte Street, and I've started to work out of the Electric Space, Mark Woolley's place. That's where I bumped into you the other day. Yeah. And then there was another salon called Environment just off Marylebone High Street. A guy called Keast. For an ex-Sassoon guy. So, I've had these little pockets of salons that I'd go and work in for a day at a time here and there, because I've got clients, obviously, people who want me to do their hair. But I really enjoy it, in the salon, the hustle and the bustle and all the rest of it. And I do think, God, there's nothing quite like it. I guess it's like a chef working in a busy kitchen or something like that. It's just and I love talking to other people's clients and getting them a drink, or, just making sure everybody's all right. I'm a very, I really like the social aspect of the salon. It's a great place.
I think unless you've worked in a salon on a busy Saturday or a Christmas, unless you've been on a salon at Christmas, you wouldn't understand what it's like, because it's just that magical atmosphere. It's like a fantastic bar, bar where you don't even need the music on, where the atmosphere and the talk, and there's something special. I had a salon for 30 years. I had my own salon.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I lost it 2018, but the landlord doubled the rent. But I sort of a bit thankful now, because I'd have had to do COVID, with that, and I sort of, it felt like someone had ripped me heart out at the time. Look now, and these blessings come, don't they? And you think, that needed to be removed from me to move forward with what I love doing now in my life, So, and it's an interesting thing, because we sort of, people hate change, and I love people, and I'm fascinated by people. And as you said, like I bumped into in the electric space. There's a lot of thing in the industry now about these type of setups. Now, I was blown away by it, what Mark has done in there. I mean, it's like a private club, isn't it? You know, and it's
a private members club. Yeah,
and you know, like if I was working now, if I weren't doing what I was doing, I would love to work in a place like that. That's where I would like to do my clients. But there's I think a lot of salon owners, I think it's fear a lot of the time, isn't it? You know?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's a funny business, I think, hairdressing, I guess, because you've got this kind of faux inclusivity, I suppose you could call it, where we're all part of the same industry and we're all supporting each other and all the rest of it. But if you opened a salon 50 yards from my salon, I'll have set fire to it. You know, it's like, which is fair enough, right? Because it's competition, you know. But
it's on your door handle.
Yeah. But you got Mark Woolley opening this place that's I guess what you could call competitive people to literally work side by side, you know. It's quite interesting for him because he's got hair salons in London, and I think he's got one in Brighton and wherever else he's got. So it's an odd thing to do. It's a very brave thing to do, and I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, an interesting story is that I had a chat with Charles Worthington and his partner Alan about renting some space off them, because they've round the corner from the electric space. Yeah. They've got the Percy Street salon, right? So I know Charles and Alan quite well, and I was looking at their Percy Street salon. It's got 5 floors, and I need a floor. So I'm launching a business next year, and I need some space, mainly to shoot YouTube content, stuff like that. I'm not opening a salon. I'm not going to do clients, but I need office space and I need a place to shoot. And I also do these kind of Instagram live things, which I like doing for the consumer. And I wanted a place to do them. So I said to Charles and Alan, how about you rent me a floor at your place? And they're like, why on earth would we do that? You know? And I said, well, I don't know, like you might have a space up there and I'd love to work in Percy Street, and you know, if you're not using it, I can rent it off you. And they went, don't you think there's a conflict of interest? And I was like, I'm not opening a salon, you know. Yeah. I'm launching a brand, and you don't own your brand anymore. You sold it years ago. Like, there's no conflict. And they went, no, there's definitely a conflict. I was like, okay, that's fine. If you think there's a conflict, then there's a conflict, you know. Yeah. But I've literally gone 100 yards around the corner and walked into a hair salon, and I'm set up there, you know. So I use it as an office. I'm running my business from there. I shoot all of my YouTube content in the studio up there. And, you know, I'm happy to use Mark Woolley's products. I'm happy to promote the electric space. I'm happy to promote my own brand there. It's like, it's just this great big melting pot where we're all doing something, you know. And I think it seems so short-sighted of Charles and Alan, I thought, to say that there was a conflict. It's like, there's no conflict. You know, it's fair enough. You want to say no, I'm not bothered. You know, like, it was just a question. Yeah. But it was very nice to meet Mark, where he was like, God, yeah, bring your business into my business and we'll help each other out. And I was thinking, great. And I love saying to people, look at the electric space, isn't it great? You know, come here, get your hair done, you know. Yeah.
I mean, the at a time like this, coming out of a pandemic, to the investment that must have been, I mean, that's no cheap space, is it? I mean, that's been done really, it's pucker, isn't it? You know, like that's a lovely space. You know,
it's terrifying. I don't know how it makes any money.
You know, I was sort of looking around thinking, oh my God, this is a major investment. But he's one of those people that, you know, I really admire him because he just goes for it, doesn't he? You know, and he takes that chance, you know, with his product brands and everything. And he delivers because, you know, he's getting the rightful success. But it's that thing that, I mean, I remember when in lockdown, when you done the how-to videos and you was on I think, you know, the morning programs and doing that.
Yeah, the one show and all that stuff. Yeah,
and all of that. But the next day, like the venom that went out.
Yeah, a lot of abuse.
I was quite taken aback. I knew you'd get a bit of stick, but I weren't really thinking you was going to. What was it like to go through? What was it like to go through that?
Yeah, it was horrible, really. I mean, having, you know, I guess people trying to destroy your reputation and ruin your credibility, and not just not just in a small way, you know, in a very, very vindictive way, was really quite brutal. And it's quite worrying. I mean, I felt sick for about a month, I would say. I thought, shit, like, it is over. Everything I've worked for and everything I've worked towards is going to be taken at this point. I think just for some context of that situation. So I worked for Weller and Weller Professionals, teaching and learning everything that you could possibly need to know about hair color and products and ingredients and how they work on the hair and all the rest of it, up until about 2000, 2001, something like that. And then I went to work in Weller's consumer products division. I was bored of the hairdressing world, I suppose, in many ways. I'd been to every Salon International, every alternative hair show you could think of. I'd put on more hair shows. I'd toured the country 7 times, I'd say, with Vidal Sassoons, Patrick Cameron, Weller, the lot. You know, like, I'd presented to every Tom, Dick and Harry, every technique you could think of. And I'd seen everybody do a bloody over-directed graduated bob 1 billion times. Like, I was done with it all. I was like, where else do I go? Consumer products I loved. I wanted to work in advertising. I loved the idea of creating those amazing hairstyles that you see in TV commercials. Even if it is for a consumer product, I don't care. I wanted to learn how to make hair look like melting glass. You know, like you see it. It doesn't even look like hair. How have they done that? I wanted to learn how to use green screen and green rods and start to manipulate hair in slow motion and all that stuff. That's what I wanted to do. So I thought, working consumer products, they make TV commercials, that's what I'll do. So Weller offered me a job there, and I took it. They owned brands like Shockwaves, Silvercrin. They had a big colour brand called Weller Viva. They had a shampoo brand called Viva On Off. They had a big range called Liquid Hair, which sponsored Friends. I don't remember at the time. It was massive. You know, it was a multi-million-dollar business. And I became the technical manager, which is like a crap name, but I guess it was their creative director, you know. So I got to learn all about the world of consumer products, and I loved it. It was brilliant. It was big, big business. And you were making decisions and shooting images that were going to sell £10 million worth of shampoo, you know. So it was brilliant, you know. So I loved all that. And then around that time, I ended up getting on TV. I really wanted to be on TV, but we can talk about that later. But it really helped. You know, I've done all this presenting and talking and everything. I knew I could present to a camera. A friend of mine was a TV producer. He said, let's get you on TV. I had this small TV show on the Discovery Channel called The Hairman. But lots of people watched it. It was translated into lots of different languages all over the world. And Procter & Gamble bought Weller around that time, and they'd seen my TV show. Right. And they said, we would love to offer you a contract. We don't understand Weller as a business, and we bought it, but you've worked in professional and you've worked in consumer. Come and help us. We'll buy 50 days a year of your time at X amount a day. Money was outrageously good. I was like, great. So I straddled both businesses for a while, but then I started to work mainly in consumer products. And they owned Clairol, Nice and Easy. They owned Head & Shoulders, Pantene, Aussie, Vidal Sassoon, and now they own Shockwaves and Silvercrin and various other Weller brands, Nicky Clark, for instance, you know. So I just started to work on all these consumer brands, and then I started to work with R&D, and then I started to learn an enormous amount about home hair colorants. I mean, I know more about home hair colorants than you know, you'd care to mention. And we're going back to 2001, 2002. So I've been in consumer products for 20 years at this point when I went on the one show and said what I said. So what I knew about consumer products was that it is serious major business for these people, for Procter & Gamble or L'Oreal or Schwarzkopf or whatever. It's a billion-dollar business around the world. And they don't just put any old shit in a bottle and put it on a shelf and expect it to work. You know, like they spend an enormous amount of time and effort and money trying to make formulations that are the best they can be, largely because they've got competition, right? Yeah. If Schwarzkopf put a load of crap in a bottle, then L'Oreal are going to clean up, right? Yeah. They've got to compete. So everybody's trying to make the best thing they can make. They're not trying to put metallic salts in there to make your hair fry and frizz, you know, all that rubbish that I have to listen to, you know, like they're really good, solid ingredients. And the other thing I would say is that a lot of these consumer products are formulated first, primary, as the number one, let's say, priority for these companies is to get that formulation right. Then once they've got that formulation right, they often then take those formulations and put them into professional products second. So a lot of people think, oh, well, let's say you say, well, a Colliston's got ME plus in it in EDDS, which are these two kind of magic ingredients. One's to reduce allergy problems, and the other one's to reduce the effect of copper sulfates in hair, right? That was in Clairol Nice and Easy for 2 years before it was in Colliston, Weller Colliston.
Oh, right, yeah. Because people think it's the other way around, don't they?
Yeah, lots of people think it's the other way around, right? So, and the reason for that is that people are crap at putting colour on their own hair. So they have to try and make the technology so safe that even if you're crap at applying it, it still works really well, right? So a lot of these technologies are developed and made specifically to help the consumer get the best possible result. And if any of those technologies are good and they think they can work in professional, they'll often go into professional second. But there's no comparison between the amount of money you make from a consumer product and you make from a professional product. You make a lot of money from them, so they're important bits of the business. They're not just any old rubbish. And that's what I had to hear all the time, really, I think, was people kind of saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to educate yourself. That stuff. I was thinking, I'm well educated about stuff. Like, I know it inside and out. No. I think it's people to have to do really was just wait for it to go away,
Yeah. It was that onslaught, wasn't it? But it's that knee-jerk reaction of people. They don't take time to think. They don't process it. It's that sort of reaction. Like, you've let us down. You've done this. And I always
I think what I would like to say is that I think I did let the industry down. I think I did very badly word what I said. It was very unsupportive. And if I could do it all again, of course, I would say it different.
Yeah.
The thing that rubbed people up the wrong way is I said it's the same stuff. I said the stuff you buy in the supermarket and the stuff in the salon is the same stuff. And it is arguably the same stuff. If you could get me a list of ingredients from Nice and Easy, you get me a list of ingredients from Colliston, you would be hard pushed to find any difference.
Yeah.
There'd be a difference in the order because there's different consistencies and there's different amounts of things like that. But to say that all these ingredients are harmful in consumer products and they're not harmful in professional products, absolute rubbish. But what I said was an insensitive thing at an extremely insensitive time, and it wasn't fair. And for that, I am really sorry about, actually. And if I could go back, I'd word it all differently.
Yeah.
But what the one show had said to me is, look, hairdressers are shut, so the hairdresser's not an option. I don't want you to talk about what the hairdressers can or can't do. That doesn't matter. What I want to know in this 3-minute section on live TV is what can somebody do to help sort their hair out? And I was like, go to the supermarket. Don't be afraid. The thing won't damage your hair any more than anything else will. Read the instructions. It's difficult to highlight your own hair, I think I said, unless you've got very short hair. And then with regards to cutting your own kids' hair, you can use clippers and do it like this. But I had 3 minutes and I was bumbling around a little bit. Also, there's no talk back. You can't see what you're presenting to. You're presenting to a black screen. You can't watch the TV at the same time. There was a lot going on. It was quite weird. And then afterwards, I didn't realise that every hair salon in Britain had been forced to close down, a lot of them under huge financial strain. The last thing they wanted to see was some cheeky northern twat basically saying, oh, don't worry about it. We've gone colour your own hair at home. So, for that, I apologised on Instagram, I think about 2 days later, and said, I wish I'd worded it differently. But I'm not going to apologise for saying that consumer products are good, because they are good. The shampoos are really good. The products are really good. It's competition for you. But if you're a hairdresser and you're worried about consumer products, then you should up your game a bit, because if you're worried a box on the supermarket shelf in Sainsbury's is going to compete with you, then bloody hell, you need to be a lot better.
This was the thing. That was the thing that I couldn't quite get, because I thought you've all got people they've got their focus on the wrong place. They're focused on the product, but not the package. And the thing is, it's like I can go and buy a steak in Tesco's and cook it for me dinner.
Yeah.
But it ain't the same as if I go to a really good steak restaurant and they cook it. I don't know how they bloody do it, but it always tastes amazing. And I'm a bad cook, but mine never quite get there. And that's all I see it as. I don't see it as that. And if all the restaurants are shut, I'm going to have to find a way. Maybe some kind restaurateur might say, look, there's a little thing you can do. You can have your at room temperature. You can do this. You can maybe set it, and and maybe it might be a little bit. And at the time, it's sort of what the client needed.
Oh,
I agree with the industry, but it's what
this was the amazing thing I learned. What I'd done for the last 20 years was worked outside of the hairdressing industry. I didn't see myself really as part of the professional hairdressing industry. I was part of consumer retail, really, and the beauty business. I was a hairdresser, but I didn't see myself as, I don't enter the British Hairdressing Awards. I don't go to the Creative Hair Awards. I don't go to the L'Oreal Colour Trophy. I don't do any of those things. I felt like I'd done that, and I get it. But it's not my area, really. I work in a completely different area. But what I found, I think, one of the most interesting things that I learned about all of that is just how closed the hairdressing industry is, how shut down it is, and how insular it is. Like, you can watch Michel Roux Jr. on primetime TV take you into the kitchen at the Gavroche, and he'll show you how he cooks his famous turbot main course. He'll show you how he does it, And you might think, why is he doing that? Because we don't go to the Gavroche then, right? We cook that at home. It's like, no, they don't. They don't do that. They still go to the Gavroche, right? Because you want the service and the experience, and the fact that Michel Roux cooked the thing for you in the first place, right? But what he does, what's brilliant about the cooking industry and Gordon Ramsay and all that, right, is they let the consumer in. They let them all in. They pull back the curtain, and you can see behind the scenes, and the consumer loves it. It's like, oh, wow, look at it. It's all this stuff going on, and it's all the hustle and bustle. It's great. Chefs do it brilliantly. What they've done is they've stopped being this kind of exclusive professional chef, and they've let in everybody. Yeah. And the hairdressing industry does not do that. Right? Oh. It says that the consumer is not welcome here. You can come as a client, but anybody who doesn't come is not welcome. It got this very insular thing. And all the consumer wanted when in lockdown was some help. And there were so few hairdressers willing to help them. Yeah. And that was the light bulb moment for me, really, is that I thought, okay, all the hairdressers hate me, fair enough, but I'm not here for them. I've always been here for the consumer, and that's what I'll do. I had literally thousands of people contact me. I grew a 35,000 Instagram followers in less than, 12 months or something like that. By just saying, you want any help? Give me a shout. DM me. I'll try and answer your question. Boom. It was unbelievable. And of all the big salons you could think of, everybody, a consumer from every one of those big salons that you can think of, got in touch. I don't want to name them because it's not very fair, but from any big salon you can think of, I had at least one customer from there say, I've tried really hard to get in touch with anyone in the salon. No one's called me back. I just want to know what to do with my roots. Can you help me? They'd send me a picture, and it would be a 6'0" with a 2-inch regrowth of grey hair. And I'd go, yeah, go and buy Clairol Nice and Easy number 6. Put it on the roots 25 minutes, comb through for 5 minutes, stick the conditioner on, send me a picture of before and after. I'd love to see it. And it was simple as that. 99% of everybody I helped was a 5-0, a 6-0, a 7-0, a 10-0.
Yeah.
And then with highlights, I'd say, don't touch it, just wake your hairdresser. Balayage, don't touch it, just wake your hairdresser.
Yeah.
50% of the advice was sit tight, buy yourself a treatment. Here's how to trim your own fringe if you're interested, And then the other 50% was just a 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, straightforward root retouch, no problem. And bloody hell, were they grateful for that advice. But it was amazing. I just felt it was really sad. It was a real missed opportunity for a lot of hairdressers to kind of go, oh, I could really help, not just my own clients, but loads of other clients. And the amount of people that sent me messages that still do today saying, please could I get an appointment with you when this is all over? And I thought, oh, so that's interesting. I'm encouraging people to use consumer products and box dyes, but in the end, they want to come to me for a professional service.
Yeah.
So it didn't have the effect that everybody thought it would have, which is if you drive people to the supermarket, they'll stay there. No, they won't. They'll go there. They'll use it while they can. They bloody hate having to do their own hair, and they'd love to come to hairdressers,
I know. I used to say it to my team, and over the years I've said it to different hairdressers, you cannot expect to sort of just go around and you need to add value. You need to also add creativity to it, because as you say, if you end up, they come to a salon, pay a lot more money and end up just having a base 6 on their roots, you've got to make sure you introduce some other little bits and say, look, we can have a few packets, we can do this, this, and this.
A few blonde bits, right? A few blonde bits, like, bloody hell, great. You can't get this.
Do not do a basics full head for time after time after time with Mr. So-and-so, because in the end, she's going to think, what am I coming and doing this for? Make it better.
I think there's the other thing is that I formulated a response to a lot of the abuse that was coming to me, and one of the things I formulated was that, you're complaining about these products in the supermarket compared to professional products, but it just doesn't matter. All the value is in you, the hairdresser. It's not in the tube. It's not in the peroxide. It's not in the box. It's all in you. So the reason they come to you is not because you're using Colliston or Majorelle or whatever. They don't even know what you're using. You could be mixing up nice and easy in the dispensary. They don't know. They don't care. They're here for you. All the value is in you, the hairdresser. And that's the thing that had been completely overlooked as well. Not by everybody. I did get quite a lot of support from a lot of hairdressers that went, you didn't say anything wrong. You just said it at a bad time. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I totally agree, It wasn't everybody, but the people it was. Oh, they were angry. They still are. Still get abusive messages now. When I'm on this morning, there's this one girl who messages me. Oh, the abuse is outrageous. I mean, I keep thinking I should block her really, but it's almost hilarious watching it come through. I can't believe it.
Do you think?
And then I look on her Instagram page and she's there cuddling her nan, saying, "Oh, my lovely nan." I think, God, if only your nan knew just how brutally you were.
What potty mouth you've got. You wouldn't then like that, would you?
It's very funny. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a brutal time for me. But a very, very valuable lesson I learned from it. And I should have read the room a lot more accurately that day, and there's definitely some regrets around it, but wow, what I learned and what I came out of the other side with, there's no other way to gather what I learned other than to go through that kind of hellish time. So I'm glad it happened, but I wish I'd said it differently.
You can't undo this stuff. I mean, I know. I mean, we said before we went on air that I'm sort of 15 years sober, and I've done some terrible things, and what I've had to learn to forgive is forgive myself, because I cannot undo stuff. All I can do is try and be the best version of myself I can from day to day. And you've been man enough. You just said you didn't just say, well, I did do nothing wrong. You said that. You just said that you wish you could, but you can't. And what you did do, you balanced it by saying that how important hairdressers are.
Yes, and I think what I've gone on to do as well since then is help the consumer, but very much support the hairdresser. Like I've done several college talks where I've gone on Zooms and talked them all about their career in hairdressing and all the different things they can do. I thought it'd be very difficult to change the hairdressing industry as it stands now, but I think if I can go to colleges and do a little bit of trying to breed a kind of new vision for hairdressing, and to not look at it quite so exclusively in too much of an elitist way, and to kind of spread the word of love. I think one of the things it would do is open up a greater pool of people who want to come in the industry. Lots of people want to be chefs because they see Jamie Oliver and Gordon Ramsay and Michel Rouge Jr. and all the other guys on TV and think, oh, it looks great. That's what hairdressing needs to do. It needs to open itself up and let people in. There's lots of parents out there that perhaps wouldn't want their kids to become a hairdresser, and you think you could alter that, no bother, by opening a whole place up to the consumer in a much bigger way. That's what I'd like to do really, is I think bridge the gap between the consumer and the client and say, let's not forget they are the same person.
Yeah. Is that to do with your business that is that the sort of direction you're going in for next year?
Yeah, I'm launching a brand next year, which I was always going to do, because one of the reasons I've worked in consumer products for all these years is I wanted to launch a consumer brand. So it's not come out of this lockdown fiasco. It's something I've been trying to do for a long time. but I'd never had a good enough idea, really. I thought, Michael Douglas, the TV celebrity hairdresser, shampoo and conditioner. It's like, yeah, what the fuck's that? Like, there's millions of TV celebrity hairdresser shampoos and conditioners. It's soap in a bottle, mate. Like, what are you offering the consumer? What is it Michael Douglas stands for? That's the thing I would get. I'd go and see Boots. I said, I'm going to launch my own range. And they go, right, what problem are you solving for women? And I go, I'm going to make their hair more voluminous and shiny than ever before. And they go, yeah, Charles Worthington's already done that. John Frieda's already done that. Lee Stafford's already done that. Yeah. What problem are you solving for women that's not currently being solved for women? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'll go away and have a think about that. And I'd go away and think, what problem am I solving for women? So, over almost a 10-year period of searching for what is it? Like John Frieda's frizzies, right? Like he solved the problem of frizz for women, Nikki Clark brought glamour and the supermodel industry to the high street, with his aromatherapy range. Like when you start trying to pin it down, it's like, yeah, God, like, one of the questions you get asked all the time is, who is Michael Douglas? What do you stand for? And I think, yeah. Like, I have no idea what Michael Douglas stands for. And then one day, the penny dropped. And I knew what I was. Like, people stopped me in the street and they always said this particular phrase to me. And since seen me on the TV, they'd go, oh, you're that guy. And then in the end, I was like, I'm that guy. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's not going to launch till next summer. But my point is that I wasn't ever in. I could have launched any old stuff, I guess, over the last 10 years, but I'm only going to do this once. It's got to be bloody right. It's got to be really good. Yeah. And it has to center around a single core idea. And I never had that till about 18 months ago. And then bang, the penny dropped. And then I thought, great. And I guess one of the things I've done since lockdown is grow an audience on Instagram with the idea, I guess, in the end of saying, okay, you've come to me for all this advice and all this help and all this education. I've taught you to blow dry your hair and use products in a different way and shampoo your hair this way and all the rest of it. And now here's a range of products that I think will really help you, And it might be a bit cynical. You might think, oh, he's just growing an audience to sell people products. But, it's a marketing strategy, I guess, around trying to provide people with a solution to a problem that keeps me in work, which is the cornerstone of any business ultimately. I didn't want to sell people a dream that wasn't real. I wanted to sell them something that I thought, I think this will help people, and I think it's really good. Yeah, and some of it's shampoo and conditioner, some of it's not.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, good. So it looks like next June, we've got really good investors. Charlotte Tilbury's one of our lead investors. Charlotte Tilbury's obviously the queen of beauty and launched the business in 2012 and sold it for $1 billion recently. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She kind of looked over our idea and thought it was great. Christoph Henkel, the guy who owns Henkel, that owns Schwarzkopf, he's an investor. Yeah, like we've got amazingly brilliant investors behind us, and so I'm really delighted. And
I'm hoping it's an outstanding success for you because we need another sponsor. So,
well, let me tell you, consider it done. Once we've launched, we'll be sponsored. What's interesting about haircuts for homeless, we talk about that, is that when I started making TV shows, I then set up my own production company and I produced most of the TV that I made. So I did a bit of directing, producing and writing, and we pitched all sorts of different ideas. I've made a lot of history documentaries and things like that. But one thing we did do is I think it was called Front Magazine, which was a lads mag in the 90s. The editor rang me up and he says, I want to make over a couple of homeless guys. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, but can I film it? And he said, yeah, sure. So I rang up my producer and I said, let's go and film this, right? So he gets these two homeless guys and come off the street and wow, they looked really chaotic and shambolic, and they'd been homeless for a good year or two. And they did look in really bad shape. But the magazine wanted to do this article that we made them over, got them clothes, got them a suit and all the rest of it, took them for a job interview, So we filmed the whole thing and I cut their hair and shaved them and all the rest of it. Yeah. It was really quite a traumatic thing to do. One, because they didn't want to be groomed too much, because one of the things they said is they couldn't beg for money if they looked too good. Yeah. And what were they going to do if they didn't get a job? You know, they were slightly hedging their bets all the time. So I said, look, how much is a hostel for the next 3 weeks or something like that? He said like 165 quid. So I gave them 165 quid, and I said, look, just take that money. Let us make you look the best we can look. And if it doesn't work out for you, then at least you've got lodgings, and then you can go back and do whatever it is you want to do, you know. So we shot this thing, and then we had some names for it. It was like a funny little teaser we made, a teaser thing, called it Transformation. Which was terrible.
God.
I think you've got to remember.
I know.
You've got to remember, it was like 1990.
Yeah.
No, it was probably about 2001. The world was a very different place. You know, like Oasis was still the biggest band in the world. Like,
yeah.
You were allowed to say offensive things to people, you know, and it was fine. So we had and then the other one was Beggars Can Be Choosers was the other title for it.
I don't know.
Anyway, we shot this little taster for it, and then we sent it to all the TV channels and all the rest of it. Some of them loved it. You know, BBC Three nearly commissioned it as a full series. The idea, what we'd do is we had some different ideas. So you'd take somebody who wants to be a chef, homeless guy wants to be a chef. You know, you make him over. You do chef training, you put him, you know, and get him to. I know, I can see he's glazed over like. Oh. And then the other one we had where we'd find 5 homeless musicians, all the different things, and then we make them all over and turn them into a band, and then get them a gig essentially, you know, and see what would happen, you know. And this, I mean, in the end, I remember telling this lawyer friend of mine about it, and he said, "You just can't do it. It's exploitative beyond belief, and it's disgusting." That's like, is it? I think it's a great idea, you know. In the end, we had to let it go. But obviously, for obvious reasons. And then the One Show turned up in about 2005 and said, we're looking for small independent production companies to make short-form programs for the One Show. Have you got any ideas? And I said, well, I used to make this TV program called The Hairman many years ago on the Discovery Channel. But we've got this little taster tape of this transformation thing. Anyway, we showed it to them, and they loved it, the One Show. And the One Show said, okay, I don't think we can make over homeless people, but off the strength of that, we would like to commission the street barber, and we'd like to send you out all over Britain cutting people's hair in the street. And literally the whole One Show thing started off the back of the taster tape we made of cutting 2 homeless people's hair. Yeah. So it's quite funny because you got in touch with me a couple of times, said, any chance we can get this homeless thing on the One Show? Yeah. And I kept going back to talk to them about it. And I think they were a bit worried that it was a bit exploitative and not very friendly and all that kind of stuff, because they said, look, you've already pitched us this. We don't want to do it. We just want to do this. So, but it's really funny how when you started doing haircuts for homeless, I was like, God, my TV career started really doing the haircuts for homeless. It's quite funny to see how it's gone for you. Yeah,
I mean, mine came about really by accident, because it just literally, because of like being in sobriety, and I used to go down on a Monday, I'd go down to local Sally Army, and I'd go and do buddying, you know, and I'd talk about alcoholism and all that stuff. And then I just saw Mark Bustos in America. This was 2014. He was out on the street doing those makeovers. And then
yes, that's right, yeah.
And I just thought, next week I'll take my scissors and I'll do a few haircuts. And it all grew from that. And there we was a couple of weeks ago in Electric. And we didn't have many customers because it's not the ideal thing. It's a bit of a setup and it doesn't really work. So I went off the streets and I was like getting guys in, and there was 2 guys that were plotted up in Oxford Street, and I got them in. There's a great couple of guys, and they look brilliant when they were done, you know. But you know, but there was another girl that came, and as soon as she saw everyone, she just couldn't cope with it, and she left straight away.
Yeah.
So I think the thing it's hard to coordinate anything like that, or just make it up, you know.
I agree, and I think in my naivety, you know, back 15, 20 years ago, I thought, we'll just get homeless people and get them to do this, but they're extremely complex, complicated reasons for why they are where they are. That is way beyond my kind of intellect, really, to try and unpick why people end up the way they do. But it's a very, very honourable thing that you do. I think it's utterly superb. And if I can help you out in any way, shape or form, you know, with posting stuff on social media, or like I say, doing this podcast, or when it comes to launching the book, I'd love to talk about it on my podcast with Davina. And then, you know, in any other way that I can help you, or if you're doing the thing at the Electric again, you want to invite me down to cut some hair and put that on my socials and all that kind of stuff to spread the word, then absolutely, you know, because nobody wants to live a completely kind of screwed up existence riddled with addiction and all the rest of it. But as you get older, you realize that you're not in control of your life in the way that you think you are. And there's a random element to life that is sometimes just not on your side. And I would say I'm extremely fortunate to be who I am. I feel genuinely fortunate to be who I am. But I think I am who I am because of the effort that I've put in. And that makes up for 30%, I think, of the output of my life. The rest of it's been a mixture of luck and help and situation and random acts of kindness and the people I've met and things like that. So I cannot take the majority credit for my success or my happiness or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because life is, it's a mystery, you know.
So many
it's a mystery.
Things along the way. I mean, that guy who came and visited you in hospital, and then he had you.
Yeah.
He had your back when you came out. If he
and you didn't need to do that.
What would your life have been? You know, so, and that difference you can make in someone's life. You know, it blows me away, and I'll appreciate that if when we get the book going, we're going to do some sort of fundraiser that's going to kick off in October. So we'll let you know. Jack Eames has got some amazing pictures that he's been taking. And
I mean, he's worth a follow. If anybody's listening to this podcast, Jack Eames is a photographer, and I've worked with him a lot on a lot of big campaigns for Weller, and he's such a lovely guy and is a brilliant photographer. So go and follow him on Instagram for sure. I think he's just at Jack Eames Photo or something like that.
Yeah, Jack Eames Photo. He has been following me around for not stalking me, but for a couple of years now, and he just gives his time free of charge. And he's just really there for us, you know. Yeah, I think it's going to be a stunning, beautiful thing when it's done. But I've taken
great. I mean, there should be one in every salon, basically, right?
Yeah,
there's 40,000 salons in Britain.
Yeah,
you know, let's try and sell one to every salon. You know.
Yeah, that was my thought. I thought, you know, what would I want to do as a salon owner when I was, you know. Do I want to give a check to 50 quid to someone, or do I want to have a lovely book to show everyone how good I am? I'm gonna do that because it is going to be stunning. But I've had enough of your time. I really appreciate. I've loved talking to you, and I feel like
great.
I found the whole thing fascinating that you said about, you know, the situation that we've just been through. But
yes, I think I probably would like just to finish off by saying I do love this industry, and I do love the vast majority of people in it. You know, they are great, fun-loving, positive people, and there are some brilliant people I think coming up in the industry. Sophia Hilton's doing a fantastic job, I think, on social media and what she's doing. I think she's doing a great job, I think, of bridging the gap with consumers and clients by, you know, having that Instagram following that's outside of hairdressing. You know, a lot of her Instagram followers are just consumers who just love multicolored hair, right? So she's doing a great job. The way she talks to the camera is brilliant. So she's great. I think Mark Woolley's doing a fantastic job. And there's a handful of other brilliant people out there as well that I think are doing a great job. But let's do our best, I guess, to bring up a new breed of hairdressers that are going to encourage more people to come into the industry and to see it differently. I think all the growth, I think, is to be found within hairdressing is to be found outside of hairdressing. That's what I've learned more than anything. Everything I've learned that's helped me in my career, I haven't learned in the great room at the Grosvenor House Hotel, or I haven't learned at Salon International, or I haven't learned at the Alternative Hair Show. I've learned it outside of the industry. So people, if they get the opportunity to leave the industry a bit, I don't mean leave it entirely, but get outside of it, go and try and work in different sectors of different creative industries. So whether it's art or fashion or TV or movies or whatever, all the growth is to be found there, because what I can see at the moment is the hairdressing world is like a giant echo chamber where everybody is saying roughly the same thing and then agreeing with each other. Nothing is moving, nothing seems to be moving outwards, So get out there, take your skills and apply them to different industries.
Yeah.
Because, there's some exciting growth to happen in hairdressing. It feels like it's not happening fast enough.
You got me excited.
Good. But the other thing is that people are afraid to work outside of the world because they'll get kind of beaten up on social media or whatever, but don't care about that. Don't care about what other people are doing.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Don't
follow your own conscience. I mean, that's what you're doing essentially. Is you're using your skills and you're going outside into a different world and applying. It's extremely rewarding to take these skills and take them outside, And
I love the industry. And originally it was about meeting homeless people, and it's gone so far more than that. Women's refugees, mental health units, all sorts of things. But on top of that, I got to meet hairdressers all across the country.
Yeah.
And I 600 volunteers we've got, and from England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and Dublin. And they're all so great. We're a fantastic bunch of people, and as you say, working together, we that whole thing, we can achieve more.
Yes, absolutely. God, one other thing I just wanted to throw in there is before it finished talking about. That was the other thing, is that most of my success has been based on my ability to talk. If you can get the opportunity to present or teach or any time you can do any public speaking, it is the single best thing you can do. And every job and every opportunity I've had has been completely based on my ability to talk. Yeah. So learn to talk properly and articulate yourself properly and be able to talk in front of 10 people or 1,000 people. But learn how to do that and you will be like superhuman. I did just want to say that because a lot of people say, how do you do that? And I always think, talk, learn to talk. It's the best thing you can do.
You can help me with that.
Yes. But the thing, the more you do it, the better you get it. And those 8-9 years I spent at Weller teaching changed my life. That was it. I learned to talk. Yeah. I mean, it's probably very irritating for a lot of people. I probably talk way too much, but it's helped me enormously. So anyway, on that bombshell, thank you so much. It's been great. And thanks. It was great to meet you and great to be invited on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. So thanks very much. I'm looking forward to this coming out, and I'll plug it on my socials and all of that jazz. And let's see each other soon.
I'll hold you to that.
It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people, some of the people that work in some of these places. Many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. This is more than a job, this is a calling.